The final battle began at the edge of human space, where the Void Devourers met the combined human fleet. What happened in the first hour changed everything anyone thought they knew about war. The Devourers came forward like a wave of darkness, their moon-sized ships consuming space itself as they moved. But the humans were ready. Captain Seo's deep fleet ships attacked first. Their weapons didn't fire energy or missiles. They fired pieces of reality. Enemy ships didn't explode. They simply stopped existing. But for every Devourer ship that disappeared, 10 more took its place. Admiral Han watched the battle from Earth's command center. Status report. "We're holding them," Commander O replied. "But barely. For every ship we destroy, they send more. At this rate, we'll run out of ammunition before they run out of ships." Han nodded. He had expected this too. "Activate Terra Nexus." O's face went white. "Sir, are you sure? Once we use Terra Nexus, there's no going back." "Commander, if we don't use it, there won't be anything to go back to." Deep in Earth's core, something that had been sleeping for 2 centuries began to wake up. Terra Nexus, humanity's greatest secret. Not a weapon, but something far more powerful. A machine that could reshape reality itself. In space, Captain Lee felt his ship shake as massive energies built up around Earth. "What's happening?" "Terra Nexus is activating," Engineer Do Hyun said, his voice full of awe. "I never thought I'd see it used." "What does it do?" Dr. So Jin asked. Lee was quiet for a moment. "It turns Earth into a weapon capable of destroying entire galaxies, but using it will change us forever." The energy from Terra Nexus reached the human fleet. Every ship began to glow with power beyond understanding. Captain Seo's vessels, already advanced beyond normal technology, became something that existed, partly in this reality and partly in others. But the Void Devourers weren't impressed. They had destroyed galaxies before. They had faced weapons that could unmake stars. They pressed forward, consuming human ships and space stations as they advanced. That's when they made their mistake. In the slave camps on distant worlds, something unexpected happened. The alien species that the Devourers had conquered began to fight back. Not because they were ordered to, but because they had seen what humans were willing to sacrifice to protect others. The crystalline Jelka used their natural ability to communicate through space itself to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems. The gas-dwelling Nephilim emerged from their hidden cities to attack Devourer supply lines. Even the insectoid chorus, who had never fought a war in their entire history, took up arms. But the most surprising help came from an unexpected source. War Chief Zephyros, the Vex Thari commander who had started this war, appeared on the human communication channels. "Captain Lee." The alien's voice was tired and ashamed. "My people made a terrible mistake. We thought you were weak because you chose peace. We were wrong." Lee looked at the alien's image on his screen. "What do you want, Zephyros?" "To make things right, the Devourers lied to us. They promised to spare some of our worlds if we helped them. Instead, they consumed our homeworld first. My people are homeless now. But we still have ships. We still have weapons. Why should we trust you?" Zephyros was quiet for a moment. "Because, Captain Lee, you showed us what real strength looks like. Not the power to destroy, but the power to protect. We want to learn that strength." Across the galaxy, the tide of battle began to turn. Human ships, powered by Terra Nexus energy, fought alongside alien vessels crewed by species that had learned courage from watching humanity's example. But the Void Devourers had one last surprise. Their largest ship, bigger than Earth's moon, began to change. Reality bent around it as it revealed its true nature. Not just a vessel, but a living creature. The apex devourer, the thing that commanded all the others. It spoke, and its voice was heard by every living thing in the galaxy. "Humans, you interest us. Join us willingly and we will spare your homeworld. Refuse and we will consume everything you have ever touched." Admiral Han's response was broadcast to every ship in space. "Unknown creature, you made one mistake. You threatened our home, you threatened our friends, you threatened the future we've been building for 200 years. Han paused, looking at the readings from Terra Nexus. The machine was ready. We are humans. We don't surrender, we don't give up, and we don't let monsters hurt the people we protect. Terra Nexus fired. The weapon wasn't like anything ever seen before. It didn't destroy the Apex Devourer. It changed it, converted it into something else, something that could create instead of consume. The effect spread through the entire Devourer fleet. Ships that had been consuming matter began producing it. Creatures that had eaten galaxies began rebuilding them. The Void Devourers were still powerful, but now they were powerful in the service of life, not death. In the aftermath, as the transformed Devourers retreated to the dark between galaxies to think about what had happened to them, the surviving species gathered to talk. Captain, Lee found himself representing humanity at the new Galactic Council. The other species looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and fear. What happens now? Asked the Jelka representative. Now that we know what humans really are? Lee thought about the question. What we really are, he said, is a species that learned to turn our greatest weapons into tools for building instead of destroying. We hid our strength not because we were ashamed of it, but because we knew the galaxy was safer when its guardians were invisible. Will you go back into hiding? Asked the Nephilim delegate. Lee shook his head. No, the galaxy has seen what happens when evil thinks good people are weak. We won't make that mistake again. Then what will you do? Lee looked out at the stars through the council chamber's windows. Human ships moved among them, no longer hiding what they were. Some carried weapons, others carried medical supplies. All carried the promise that they would be there when needed. We'll do what we've always done, Lee said. We'll stand guard. We'll protect those who can't protect themselves. We'll build instead of destroying. And when monsters come from the dark, we'll remind them why it's a bad idea to attack sleeping giants. 6 months later, Captain Lee stood in a garden on New Busan. The colony had been rebuilt stronger than before. Human and alien children played together among flowers from a dozen worlds. Dr. So-Jin worked nearby, tending to plants that had been saved from worlds the Devourers had damaged. Engineer Do-hyun was teaching young Vexithari how to build things instead of weapons of war. Captain, So-Jin called out, we're getting a signal from the edge of the galaxy. Something's coming. Lee smiled and touched the communication device on his belt. Across human space, the response was immediate. Ships that looked like cargo haulers and medical transports began to move into position. Their crews were teachers and doctors and engineers, who also happened to be the most dangerous. Warriors in the galaxy. What is it this time? Do-hyun asked. Lee shrugged. Does it matter? Whatever it is, it's about to learn the same lesson the Vexithari and the Devourers learned. Which is? Lee knelt down to help a small alien child plant a seed from Earth. That, in this galaxy, the gardeners are also the guardians, and if you threaten the garden, he stood up, looking at the peaceful scene around him and the warships hidden among the stars above. You wake up the gods of war. In the distance, alarms began to sound, but they weren't alarms of fear, they were alarms of readiness. Across the galaxy, humans and their alien friends prepared to face whatever was coming, because they had learned the most important lesson of all. True strength wasn't the power to destroy your enemies. It was the power to turn your enemies into friends. And when that didn't work, it was having enough firepower to protect your friends from anything that wanted to hurt them. The temple doors would never fully close again. But that was okay. The galaxy was safer with its guardians visible, and the gardeners were always ready to become warriors when the garden needed protection. The end. The warning came from the edge of the galaxy. Human sensors hidden in places no one knew existed detected something terrible approaching. Ships that were older than civilizations. Ships that moved through space like living things, consuming everything in their path. Admiral Han stared at the readings in disbelief. How many ships are we talking about? Commander O checked his instruments twice before answering. 10,000, sir. Maybe more. They're They're huge. Each one is the size of a small moon. Who are they? Unknown, sir, but they're heading straight for human space. And sir, the Vexathari are talking to them. Han closed his eyes. For 200 years, humans had prepared for war with other species in the galaxy. But this was something else. Something from the dark spaces between stars. Get me Captain Lee, Han ordered. On the Harmony's edge, Captain Lee received the emergency transmission. When Admiral Han explained what was coming, Lee felt cold inside. Admiral, what are your orders? We're activating Protocol 9, Han said quietly. Dr. Park So-jin, who was listening, gasped. Protocol 9, but that's the one we hoped we'd never use, Lee finished. The one that calls back the sleepers. So-jin looked confused. The sleepers. Lee turned to her. Doctor, what do you think happened to all the humans who left Earth before we joined the galaxy? The ones who went to explore the far reaches of space? They died out there. Lost contact. We assumed they were gone. No, Lee said. They found things out there. Terrible things. Things that wanted to destroy all life in the galaxy. So they stayed out there, fighting them, keeping them away from us. For 200 years? For 200 years. And now we're calling them home. Across human space, ancient communication arrays powered up. Arrays that hadn't been used since humans first left Earth. They sent signals into the dark between galaxies to places where no one else dared to go. The signals were simple. Come home. We need you. 3 days later, the answers began to arrive. General Bae Min-ho received the first message while commanding the defense of the Kepler system. His fleet of 50 ships was facing a Vexathari attack force of 200 vessels when the communication came through. General Bae, this is Deep Fleet Omega. We're coming home. Bae almost dropped his coffee. Deep Fleet Omega? That's impossible. You've been gone for 187 years, 4 months, 12 days, came the reply. We've been busy. On Bae's tactical screen, new contacts appeared. Ships unlike anything he had ever seen. They moved through space without engines, turned without thrusters, and shot weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. Captain Seo Yoon-ji commanded the lead ship. When her vessel appeared next to Bae's flagship, he could see through the windows that she looked exactly like a 25-year-old human. She should have been dust and bones by now. Captain Seo, Bae said over the radio. How are you still alive? Time moves differently out there, General. We've learned things, seen things, fought things that would give you nightmares. What kind of things? The kind that's heading for our galaxy right now. The new human ships joined the battle against the Vexathari. What happened next was beyond understanding. The alien vessels, which had been winning moments before, were destroyed in seconds. Seo's weapons didn't just blow up enemy ships, they made them disappear. How did you do that? Bae asked. We learned from our enemies, Seo replied. The things we fought out, they taught us new ways to wage war. All across the galaxy, more deep fleet ships appeared. They came from the darkness between stars, bringing technology that seemed like magic. Some ships could move through solid matter. Others could attack targets in the past. A few could make entire enemy fleets forget they existed. But with the deep fleet came terrible news. Captain Seo met with Admiral Han through a secure communication link. Her young face was serious as she explained what the deep fleet had learned. Admiral, the things coming for us aren't just aliens. They're called the Void Devourers. They eat entire galaxies. Life, matter, energy, everything. They've consumed thousands of galaxies already. How do we fight them? Very carefully. And with everything we have. The Vexathari made a deal with them. The aliens get to keep some worlds as long as they help the Devourers consume the rest of the galaxy. Han felt sick. Why would the Vexathari do that? Because they're terrified. The Devourers found their homeworld first, gave them a choice, help us, or die with everyone else. Engineer Kim Do-hyun, who was working on upgrades to the Harmony's edge, stopped what he was doing. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout human space. Every deep fleet ship is changing. On the view screen, they watched as Captain Co's vessel transformed. The ship's hull flowed like liquid metal, reshaping itself into something that looked alive. Weapons that had been hidden emerged from the ship's skin. Armor that seemed to be made of solid starlight covered the vessel. "What is that?" Do-hyun whispered. "That," Captain Lee said, "is what humans become when they fight in the dark between galaxies for 2 centuries. The transformation was happening, everywhere. Human ships that had been hiding their true nature for 200 years revealed themselves completely. But the deep fleet ships were something else entirely. They had evolved beyond normal human technology. Admiral Han realized that humanity faced a choice. They could use their hidden strength to fight the Void Devourers, but it might not be enough. Or they could become something new, something powerful enough to save the galaxy. But becoming that powerful meant they might never be able to go back to being peaceful again. The decision was made for them when the Void Devourers arrived. The enemy fleet appeared at the edge of the galaxy like a black wave. Ships the size of moons moving in formation that hurt to look at. They didn't just destroy things, they unmade them, turning matter back into nothingness. The first target was the Vexthari, homeworld. The aliens had served their purpose. The Devourers consumed their planet in minutes, leaving empty space where billions of lives had been. Then they turned toward the center of the galaxy. Admiral Han stood in his command center, watching the enemy advance. Around him, his staff waited for orders. Outside, Earth's hidden defenses powered up to levels that would have been impossible just days before. "Sir," Commander O reported, "all human fleets are in position. Deep Fleet is ready, but, sir, even with everything we have, the enemy outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. Han nodded. He had expected this. Humanity's greatest battles had always been against impossible odds. "Send a message to all ships," Han ordered. "Tell them it's time to show the galaxy what humans really are. Not just warriors, not just builders, but the species that refuses to let evil win, no matter the cost." In space around Earth, the human fleet assembled. Ships from the home system joined with vessels from every human world. The Deep Fleet took position at the front, their reality-bending weapons ready. Captain Lee stood on his bridge, looking at his crew. Dr. So-jin was ready with medical supplies for the wounded. Engineer Do-hyun had pushed their ship beyond its limits. Ambassador Miran had sent final messages to the alien species, telling them to remember that humans had tried to protect them. "Captain," So-jin said quietly, "are we going to win?" Lee looked out at the approaching darkness. The Void Devourers filled space like a plague, consuming light itself as they moved. "Doctor," he said, "humans have been fighting impossible battles for 50,000 years. We've faced ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have destroyed us. Every time we survived. Every time we got stronger." He turned to his crew. "Today, we find out if we're strong enough to save everyone else too." The Void Devourers reached the edge of human space. The final battle was about to begin. 1 week after the first battle at New Busan, the galaxy was in shock. The peaceful humans, the same species that spent their time building hospitals and negotiating trade deals, had just destroyed the most powerful alien fleet anyone had seen in 100 years. News spread fast through space. Every alien race was asking the same question. What else have the humans been hiding? They were about to find out. Fleet Admiral Han Ji-woo stood in the command center buried deep beneath Earth's surface. The room was huge, filled with screens showing every part of human space. For 2 centuries, this place had been secret. Now, it was the center of the largest military operation in galactic history. "Status report," Han said. Commander Oh Seok-jin, head of human intelligence, stepped forward. "The Vexthari are attacking 57 human worlds. Their main fleet is moving toward Earth. They want to end this war quickly." Han nodded. "How many ships do they have?" 3,000 battle cruisers, 5,000 support ships. It's the biggest invasion force ever assembled." Han smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Good. When we destroy it, no one will ever doubt human strength again." Around the galaxy, The truth about humanity was being revealed. On Mars, what everyone thought, where terraforming stations opened up like metal flowers. Inside were weapons that could destroy moons. The weather control satellites around the planet turned out to be part of a defense grid that could stop an entire invasion fleet. In the asteroid belt, mining platforms began building warships at impossible speed. Factories that had been making tools for 200 years revealed they had been making weapons the whole time. Ships poured out by the thousands, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But the biggest shock came from Earth itself. The blue-green world that everyone knew as the peaceful heart of human space began to change. The oceans, which looked so calm and beautiful, started to bubble and churn. Massive shapes rose from the depths. Shipyards that had been hidden underwater for centuries. Islands that tourists loved to visit opened up, showing they were actually the tops of military bases. The nature preserves revealed themselves as launch sites for weapons that could reach across the galaxy. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the transformation through his communication screen. The Harmony's Edge had been upgraded again. Now it looked nothing like a diplomatic vessel. It looked like what it really was, a ship built for war. "Captain," Dr. Park Seo-jin said, "I'm getting reports from across the galaxy. Every human world is doing the same thing. We're not hiding anymore." Lee nodded. "For 200 years we've been playing a part, acting weak so no one would fear us. Now someone has forced us to show our true face." Engineer Kim Do-hyun looked up from his station. "Sir, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through." Admiral Han's face appeared on the screen. The old man looked tired but determined. "All ship captains, this is Admiral Han. The Vexthari have made their choice. They want total war. They're going to get it." Han paused, looking directly at the camera. "I'm ordering the activation of Protocol 7. Full deployment. No more hiding. No more pretending. Show the galaxy what humans really are." The message ended. Seo-jin looked confused. "What's Protocol 7? Lee was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It's the protocol that tells us to stop being human diplomats and start being human warriors." Across human space, the transformation was complete. Peaceful colonies became military strongholds overnight. Merchant ships revealed weapon systems that could destroy battle fleets. Space stations that looked like research facilities began coordinating attacks across dozens of star systems. But the most shocking change was in the humans themselves. Captain Nam Soo-bin had always been known as a gentle pilot who transported medical supplies. Now she stood in the command center of a ship that carried enough firepower to level a planet. Her crew, doctors, engineers, and teachers just days before, worked at weapon stations with the skill of trained soldiers. "How did you learn to do this so fast?" asked an alien observer who was visiting her ship. Soo-bin smiled. "We didn't learn it fast. We already knew it. Every human child learns history in school. But our history classes teach more than just facts. They teach tactics, strategy, how to fight wars." The alien looked shocked. "You train your children for war?" "We train our children to survive," Soo-bin corrected. "The galaxy is dangerous. We hoped we would never need to use what we learned. But we learned it anyway." On New Busan, something amazing was happening. The human colonists, who had been slaves just days before, were fighting back. They had broken out of their prison camps and were attacking their Vexthari guards. Jang Min-ho, the miner who had first received the hidden message, now led a group of freed prisoners. They had found weapons caches that had been hidden on the planet for decades. "Just in case. How did you know where to find the weapons?" asked another colonist. Min-ho grinned. "Every human colony has them, hidden in places only we would think to look. The government told us they were emergency supplies for natural disasters." "Were they lying?" "No," Min-ho said, checking his rifle. "Vexthari invasions are definitely natural disasters. In space around New Busan, the remnants of the alien fleet tried to escape, but human ships surrounded them." Captain Lee opened a communication channel to the surviving Vexthari vessels. "War Chief Zephyros, your invasion has failed. Surrender now and we will treat your crews according to galactic law. Zephyros appeared on screen. The proud alien commander looked broken. Impossible. We studied you for decades. You are peaceful. You avoid conflict. You studied us wrong, Lee said. You saw what we wanted you to see. You thought we were weak because we chose not to fight. You confused mercy with inability. Your people, they fight like demons. Where did they learn such skills? Lee was quiet for a moment. Then he said, War Chief, humans have been fighting wars for 50,000 years. We got very good at it. 200 years ago we decided to stop fighting each other and work together instead. But we never forgot how to fight. You tricked us. You tricked the entire galaxy. No, Lee said. We protected the galaxy. Do you know why humans really stopped fighting wars among ourselves? Zephyros shook his head. Because when humans fight wars, we tend to win them. And when we win them, we destroy everything. 200 years ago, we looked at our homeworld and saw what we had done to it with our wars. We decided that if we ever fought again, it would only be to protect others, not to conquer them. Lee leaned forward. You forced us to fight again. You made us remember what we are capable of. The galaxy will never forgive you for that. Across the galaxy, other alien races watched in amazement and terror as human fleets appeared everywhere at once. Ships that had been hauling cargo for decades revealed themselves as advanced warships. Human colonies that had seemed defenseless began destroying alien invasion forces. The Jellica, crystalline beings who lived in asteroid fields, sent a message to Earth. Humans, we offer alliance. We did not know your true strength. The Nephilim, gas giant dwellers with technology beyond most species, contacted Admiral Han directly. We wish to learn from you. Teach us how to hide our strength as you have done. The insectoid chorus, who communicated through shared thoughts, sent a simple message. We are grateful for your protection. We understand now why the galaxy has been safe. But not everyone was happy with the revelations. On the Vexthari homeworld, emergency meetings were held. Their greatest military minds gathered to discuss what they had learned about humans. They have been watching us, reported their intelligence chief. For decades, they have been preparing for our invasion. They knew we were coming before we knew we were going. How is that possible? Demanded the Vexthari emperor. Because, my lord, they think like us. They understand war. They planned for every possibility. The emperor was silent for a long time. Then he asked, Can we defeat them? The intelligence chief hesitated. My lord, we have fought and conquered 47 species. None of them were prepared for war. The humans, they were born for it. Back on Earth, Admiral Han received reports from across the galaxy. Human forces were winning everywhere. The Vexthari invasion was collapsing. But Han wasn't celebrating yet. Sir, Commander O reported, we're detecting massive energy signatures from beyond the galaxy's edge. Something big is coming. Han frowned. The Vexthari have allies. Unknown, sir. But whatever it is, it's heading straight for us. Han nodded. Then we'll be ready for it. Signal all fleets. Prepare for the next phase. He looked at the tactical display showing human forces across the galaxy. Ships that had been hidden for centuries were now revealed. Weapons that had been disguised as peaceful tools were now ready for war. The temple doors were fully open now. The gods of war were awake and ready. And the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest secret wasn't how strong they were. It was how much stronger they could become when they had to. 3 hours after Captain Lee pressed the red button, the galaxy began to change. On Earth, Admiral Yun Sang-woo walked through corridors that most people thought were part of a history museum. The old man moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp. He had been waiting for this day for 30 years, hoping it would never come, knowing it probably would. Status report, he said to the young officer beside him. All systems coming online, sir. Moonbase Armstrong is at 60% power. Mars defense grid is activating. The asteroid belt factories are switching to war production. Yoon nodded. How long until the fleet is ready? 72 hours for the first wave, sir. 1 week for full deployment. Too slow, Yoon said. The Vexthari won't wait. Neither will we. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the Harmony's Edge floated in space near New Busan. Captain Lee watched the alien ships through his window. They moved in lazy circles, like sharks that thought they owned the ocean. Engineer Kim Do-hyun came back to the bridge. He looked different. His uniform was the same, but something had changed in his face. The soft look of a peaceful engineer was gone. Now he looked like what he really was, a warrior pretending to fix pipes. "Ship modifications complete, Captain," Do-hyun said. "Weapons are online, shields are up. The Harmony's Edge is ready for war." Dr. Park So-jin stared at him. "Weapons? This is a diplomatic ship." Do-hyun smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "Doctor, this ship has enough firepower to destroy a small moon. We just kept it hidden behind false walls and fake equipment." "That's impossible," So-jin said. Lee turned to her. "Doctor, what do you know about human history? We used to fight wars. We stopped 200 years ago when we joined the galaxy." "Wrong," Lee said. "We stopped fighting each other 200 years ago. We never stopped preparing to fight everyone else." On the planet below, something was happening. Human colonists in the slave camps were getting messages on hidden devices, messages that had been waiting in their equipment for decades. The messages were simple. Stay strong. Help is coming. Remember who you are. In Camp 7, a miner named Jang Min-ho read the message and smiled for the first time in weeks. He walked to his work group and whispered to the others. Word spread quickly through the camp. The humans began to change. They stood straighter. They looked their alien guards in the eye. They stopped acting afraid. The Vexthari guards noticed. They didn't understand what was happening, but they knew something was wrong. Back in space, more human ships were arriving. They looked like cargo haulers and passenger transports. But when they moved like warships. When they formed up around the Harmony's Edge, they formed a battle line. Captain Nam Soo-bin commanded one of the new arrivals. Her ship was called the Peaceful Dawn, and it looked like it carried medical supplies. In reality, it carried enough fighters to take out a battle fleet. "Captain Lee," Soo-bin's voice came over the radio. "Good to see you again." "Soo-bin," Lee replied. "How many ships do we have?" 12 in this system. More coming. Earth Command says we have permission to do whatever it takes." Lee looked at the planet where his people were prisoners. "Then let's get our colonists back." The Vexithari commander, War Chief Zephyros, watched the human ships from his flagship. He wasn't worried. Humans were weak, everyone knew that. They hadn't fought a real war in centuries. "Should we attack them?" asked his second-in-command. "Not yet," Zephyros said. "Let them come closer. When they see our strength, they will run away like all the other weak races." He was about to learn how wrong he was. On Earth, Colonel Jang Hye-jin stood in a room full of soldiers. These weren't the peacekeepers that most people saw. These were the ones who had been training in secret, learning skills their great-grandparents had used in the old wars. "Listen up," Jang said. "The Vexthari think they can take human slaves. They think we're soft. They think we forgot how to fight." The soldiers listened. They had been waiting for this moment their whole lives. They're about to learn that humans don't forget anything. We just get better at it. Back at New Busan, Captain Lee opened a communication channel to all Vexithari ships. "This is Captain Lee of the Human Defense Force. You have human citizens, prisoner on that planet. Release them now and leave this system. This is your only warning." Zephyros appeared on the screen. His alien face showed amusement. "Human Defense Force? You mean the diplomatic corps that runs away from every fight?" "No," Lee said quietly. "I mean the part of humanity you've never met before." Zephyros laughed. "You have 12 small ships. I have 50 battle cruisers. You will surrender or I will add your crews to my slave collection." Lee looked at the alien commander with eyes that had gone cold. "War Chief Zephyros, you made 2 mistakes. First, you attacked human civilians. Second, you threatened to enslave more humans. What difference does that make?" "It means," Lee said, That we're not here to arrest you. We're here to teach the galaxy what happens when someone hurts our people. The communication ended. Zephyros turned to his crew. Destroy the human ships. Show the galaxy that the Vexathari fear no one. His fleet moved forward, weapons charging, ready to crush the small group of human vessels. What happened next changed everything. The human ships didn't run. They didn't try to talk. They didn't send out distress calls. They attacked. The Harmonies. Edge opened fire first. Weapons that looked like simple cargo equipment revealed themselves as weapons of war. Energy beams cut through space, hitting 3 Vexathari ships before they could react. Captain Subin's ship launched fighters, hundreds of them, pouring out like angry wasps from a hidden nest. The small craft moved faster than anything the Vexathari had ever seen, dodging alien weapons and returning fire with deadly accuracy. Other human ships revealed their true nature. Missile pods opened like flowers, launching thousands of guided weapons. Energy cannons emerged from hidden compartments. Shields that could stop a planet-killer beam flickered to life. In 10 minutes, 20 Vexathari ships were destroyed or disabled. Zephyros stared at his tactical display in shock. Impossible. Humans don't have this technology. They're peaceful traders. His tactical officer looked terrified. Sir, we're reading massive energy signatures throughout this system. More human ships are arriving, hundreds of them. From where? Everywhere, sir. They're coming out of asteroid fields, gas giant storms, even from inside the planet's moon. They were hidden, waiting. On Earth, Admiral Yoon watched the battle reports coming in. The first engagement was going well, but it was just the beginning. Intelligence reports showed Vexathari fleets moving toward other human worlds. Sir, his aide reported, the enemy is launching a full invasion of our territory. 50 systems under attack. Yoon nodded. Then it's time to stop pretending. Send the activation codes to all human worlds. Full military deployment. Let every ship captain know the rules of engagement have changed. Across human space, the transformation began. Peaceful colonies revealed hidden defense platforms. Merchant ships dropped their disguises and showed their true firepower. Space stations that looked like research facilities became military command centers. And in the deep places where humans had been preparing for this day, the real weapons began to wake up. Back at New Busan, the battle was almost over. Most of the Vexathari fleet was destroyed. Zephyros himself was trapped on his damaged flagship, watching his empire's plans fall apart. Captain Lee's voice came over the communication system one last time. War Chief Zephyros, you wanted to know what humans are really like. Now you know. We are not the weak race you thought we were. We are the race that conquered our own world, then chose to make peace with it. We are the race that learned to turn our greatest weapons into tools for building instead of destroying. Lee paused, looking at the broken alien fleet. But when someone threatens our people, we remember how to be what we used to be. And what we used to be was very, very good at war. The temple doors were fully open now, and the gods of war were awake. Captain Lee Taeho stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. The Harmony's Edge moved quietly through space, carrying diplomats and trade goods to the outer worlds. For 200 years, this is what humans did. They talked instead of fought. They built instead of destroyed. They made friends with alien races across the galaxy. Everyone knew humans were peaceful. The history book said so. Earth's government said so. Even the aliens believed it. They were all wrong. Lee touched the locked box on his desk. Inside were papers that had not been opened for centuries. War plans, battle codes, instructions for things that should never be needed again. His grandfather had given him the box. His grandfather's grandfather had carried it before that. Every human ship captain had one. Captain, called Dr. Park So-jin from her medical station. We're getting close to New Busan Colony. New Busan was a mining world on the edge of known space. 50,000 humans lived there, digging metals from the ground and sending them back to Earth. It was a quiet place, a safe place, or it had been. Any word from them yet? Lee asked. So-Jin shook her head. Nothing for 3 days. The last message was strange. It cut off in the middle. Engineer Kim Do-hyun looked up from his work. Could be equipment failure. These outer worlds don't have the best gear. Lee nodded, but something felt wrong. In his belly, he felt the old warning his father had taught him. The feeling that came before trouble. Humans had learned to trust that feeling over millions of years of staying alive. How long until we arrive? Lee asked. 6 hours, Do-hyun said. Lee walked to the communication station. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we're investigating New Busan, standard diplomatic mission. What he didn't say was that he had already sent another message. A coded one that went to places most people didn't know existed. Places where old soldiers waited for calls that might never come. Ambassador Choi Mi-ran came onto the bridge. She was humanity's voice in this part of the galaxy. Smart, kind, and trusted by many alien races. She had spent her life making peace. Any news about our colonists? She asked. Not yet, Lee said. We'll know more when we get there. Mi-ran sat down at her station. The Galactic Council is worried. They think it might be pirates. Lee almost smiled. Pirates. If only it were that simple. 6 hours later, the Harmony's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel near New Busan. What they saw made everyone go quiet. The planet was still there. The mining stations were still working, but ships filled the sky around it. Strange ships with dark metal hulls and weapons that glowed red. Ships that looked like they were built for war. Those aren't pirates, Do-hyun said. Lee knew what they were. He had seen pictures in the secret files. Vexithari ships. The Vexithari were aliens from beyond the known galaxy. They conquered worlds and took slaves. They had been moving closer to human space for years. Get me a scan of the planet, Lee ordered. The results were bad. Very bad. The human colonists were alive, but they were in chains. The Vexithari had turned New Busan into a prison camp. The aliens were taking everything valuable and shipping it away. Captain, So-Jin said, her voice tight. They're hailing us. Put them through. The main screen lit up with the face of a Vexithari commander. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and a spider, with too many eyes and sharp teeth. When it spoke, the computer translated its words. Human ship, you will leave this system now. This world belongs to the Vexithari Empire. Lee stepped forward. I am Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Human Diplomatic Corps. We have citizens on that planet. We demand their release. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans, the weak ones, the ones who gave up fighting long ago. Your people make good slaves. They work hard and don't fight back. We want to talk, Lee said. There must be a way to solve this without violence. Talk? The alien's eyes gleamed. There is nothing to talk about. Your people are ours now. Leave or join them in chains. The screen went dark. Mi-ran stood up. We need to contact the Galactic Council, get them to send help. Lee shook his head. They won't. The Council doesn't fight wars. They talk and make rules and hope problems go away. Then what do we do? So-Jin asked. Lee looked at each of them. His crew. Good people who had signed up for a peaceful mission. They didn't know what he knew. They didn't know what humans really were, under all the peace talks and trade deals. Do-hyun, Lee said. Go to engineering. Start the old startup sequence. Do-hyun blinked. Sir? The one your father taught you. The one you were told to forget. Understanding dawned in the engineer's eyes. Yes, sir. As Do-hyun left, Lee turned to So-Jin. Doctor, I need you to prepare your medical bay, not for normal injuries, for combat wounds. So-Jin's face went pale. Captain, what are you saying? Lee walked to his desk and picked up the locked box. For the first time in his life, he opened it. Inside were papers that smelled old and important. Maps of human space that showed things, not on any public chart. Communication codes that had been waiting centuries to be used. At the bottom was a single red button. Mi-ran, Lee said. Send a message to Earth. Use this code. He handed her a paper with numbers and letters. Myran read it and her hands began to shake. This is a war code. Yes, but humans don't fight wars anymore. Lee looked at her with eyes that suddenly seemed older. No, Myran. Humans don't start wars anymore, but when someone else starts one with us, we finish it. He pressed the red button. Across human space, lights began to turn on, lights that had been dark for 200 years. On Earth, deep beneath the surface, machines started to hum. On the moon, behind false walls marked, Museum Do Not Enter, weapons systems came online. In the asteroid belt, mining stations began to change shape, revealing their true purpose. And on distant worlds, in quiet towns and peaceful cities, humans looked up at the sky and remembered things their grandparents had told them. Stories about the old days. About what humans could do when they had to. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had really stopped fighting wars. It wasn't because they couldn't. It was because when humans fought wars, they won them. On the bridge of the Harmony's edge, Lee watched the Vexathari ships patrol around New Busan. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humans were weak and afraid. Tomorrow, they would learn the truth. The temple doors were opening, and the gods of war were waking up.